Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again. This is a drawing I'm doing of our character Raptor for the upcoming comic book Keith Bacon. I first started out by just doing a quick rough sketch in red pencil just to get sort of the feel of the anatomy and where I want, the various body parts to be. At this point I'm not really worried about any detail. This is just large structures and large masses. Then I start to put in a little bit of details, and I start adjusting the drawing rather than redrawing it. It's better just to edit it with the tools in Manga Studio or Clip Studio Paint. After that, I start turn that to a blue line sketch, sort of, so I don't have to redraw a tighter version, and I just draw a red tighter version over it. Lower the opacity on the blue a little bit and just start adding the details. Turning the screen helps a lot to get smooth lines. That way your hand is drawing in its natural direction and you're not pulling against your body. It really helps to have the tools to adjust things that you may have drawn in the wrong place. This program makes it very, very easy to do editing on your drawings. Turning the canvas is one of my favorite things, and the blue line layer that I use, it helps me to work out ideas that I don't have totally concrete before I do a tight pencil. And my tight pencils aren't as tight as most people's because I just want to go right to the color as soon as possible. I don't like spending a lot of time doodling over and over and over and making things tighter. Also, the 3D tool in Manga Studio is awesome. I sculpted this gun in Blender, and lets me bring it in and adjust the details a little bit. I don't use it just as is. I actually go over and paint over my 3D models. I don't like them looking like they're 3D. I want them to have a better feel, but it just helps to have the same gun over and over, so for continuity. You can just set it to look like a sketch so that when you're painting, you just use it as reference, really. Then I start blocking in large color areas on different layer. Each color group gets its own layer. That way, when I turn on the pixel lock on the layers, I can just use the actual color layer as a mask so that I don't go outside the lines. It makes it really fast for adding details later. I don't like inking, so don't ink any of my stuff. After I do the large color blocks, I go in and I only add the lines that are absolutely necessary. As you can see, I can just color underneath the layer that holds the three-dimensional version of the gun, and it looks just like the rest of it. At this point, I start just, I'm almost done with the color group, so I start doing a little bit of the work of adding detail. Color picking in Manga Studio is pretty interesting. The color picker is always out. Older versions of Photoshop, you had to go digging for it, and I always hated that. So what I do is I take a dip of the color that I'm working with and I go a couple shades darker and less saturated for the outline colors that I'm going to be adding. Really helps a lot. Here I'm painting over the gun so it all has a natural look of something that was painted. Again, the 3D model should only be used, in my opinion, for tight reference so that you can have continuity to the whole story and it doesn't look different in every panel. But if you don't want to do the repaint, I guess you can use it just as a 3D model with color, which is just fine. Here I've started doing some of the detail, just adding darker lines of the same color to get in more detail. This goes pretty quickly once you get into it. Now I start adding the shadows, which is just a layer over the color layer that has overlay, so that I can just use black and white, and black becomes a more saturated color of the color below, and white becomes a less saturated color of the color above, and it gives a good light and shadow mix. Then I start adding just highlights with a more dense color brush to add those little details and make the metal look like metal. It's good to start with large areas of shadow first and then work down towards the details. Then I turned the color to white, and in the same overlay layer I start adding the highlights. Just makes it quicker, less layers to work with. Just add a quick little couple of adjustments to bring in some more saturation. Then I select all the color pieces and I put it on a layer below, flatten it to black, add a blur, and make it into a cool shadow. Alright guys, thank you. Thanks to Cyberlight Comics for sponsoring this. Thanks guys. Bye.